Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. And on this sunny morning in the middle of the year, I'm actually reviewing a book, and interviewing it too for that matter, actually reviewing a book which has come to us from Global Law and Business. Sean O'Neill has kindly sent this book to us. It's been written with the cooperation of the Centre for Legal Leadership, and the title of the book is a very topical one: Diversity and Inclusion in the Legal Profession. It's available in paperback and ebook form and so forth. It's a special report effectively from Global Law as part of their law firm Management Insights series. And Elizabeth was the lead writer on this particular review, and we've given it a title, Setting the Record Straight on Diversity and Inclusion, a new report from Global Law and Business. Let's have a look at the actual paperback, which is what it is. First of all, there it is there. There's nothing on the spine, a little bit on the back. It's a light book. It runs to about 100, just over 100 pages. The people involved in writing it are at the back, about the authors, quite a lot of them mentioned. You can see the names. I'll just show you the names. There are the names of the people. I'm not going to mention them by name, but and some of them are mentioned later on. But you can see a lot of people have been involved in this work. We go to the front of the paperback. You can see the main title there, Diversity and Inclusion in the Legal Profession. There's the blurb from Globe, and then there's the table of contents, starting off with a foreword and then running through into basically 5 areas. The areas being, and let me just state that, trans in the legal work space, social mobility, disability, ethnic diversity and women in the law. Then there's a foreword, which is again extremely useful. As I say, this is a very topical matter at the moment. Then you go straight into the first chapter, Trans in the Legal Workspace, an introduction. There's some blocking so that you get standout for very important factual information, quite a lot of quotes and so forth. And running through, that's how the book runs all the way through, as you can see. As I say, it's a light book. It's an easy read book as well. It's not a difficult book to read. I think everybody who's involved in the legal world should be aware of this book and certainly read it if they have the time, because this is a matter that the professional bodies stress highly on the matter specifically of diversity and inclusion. Whether they're successful is a totally different issue, and whether they're hypocritical is another issue. But the fact is we are talking about it, and I think that is probably the first step forward, because frankly I come from a generation where this didn't really crop up as a discussion at all. It went on. In fact, basically prejudices of all sorts went on, and we are now trying to address that in the 21st century. So what do we say about the book? Because we're setting the record straight here. It's aimed primarily at solicitors, and in-house and in private practice, but it's equally relevant, we think, to members of the bar. It's an important special report from Global Law and Business, and I think it will be of special interest to law firms and chambers and all policymakers keen to implement effective and compassionate inclusion and diversity policies within their organisations. And can I just say, I know that just about everybody does. We are told we must do. I don't think there's a difficulty about that. We do, and I think we are recognising that there must be a clear set of ground rules about what we do. Now, this recent title comes from Globe's law firm Management Insights, and it's a series they've produced, and we've reviewed a number of their copies, which of their reports, which are well worth reading. They're not expensive either, so there's something you could have for your law library. And this report emerges, in our view, as the brilliant result of an impressive collaboration of 9 authors, mentioned at the back, each an expert in diversity issues, each typically revealing a global orientation, because that is where we're going in the 21st century. The report covers a range of diversity issues, including trans in the legal workspace, social mobility, disability, ethnic diversity, and women in the law. Those are the main core headings for the report. The report's first chapter is covered by the authors Emma Cusden and Rachel Rees, and they note that there are 650,000 trans people in the UK. Now, I for one didn't know that, and I'm actually interested to know how they arrive at that figure, but clearly that is a large number of the overall population in the country. I imagine we're talking about not just adults, but people at all ages. And of this number, the percentage working within the legal profession is not given, as perhaps it's probably not available, although we all fill in every year when we apply for our practicing certificate the questionnaires. So I would imagine if people are declaring, they will get the information that way, but they're not making it public. It would be interesting, of course, to find out what the figures are. Personally, I have to say I think they're quite low, but I may be criticised for that. Obviously, I'm talking from the standpoint of just seeing what I'm looking at when I'm in the profession, and I don't see a large number, but it may be that I'm misguided. I don't know. Presumably, of course, the answer will indicate perhaps a significant number if they were to publish the figures. Whether that's going to be popular with people, I don't know. But however, the report, therefore, I think is useful in that it comprehensively and in one handy volume includes such topics as gender, BAME and disability issues as well. So we're looking at the whole range of those areas where active prejudice still abounds. Now, the key message of the report is that it calls for anyone who may or can be placed under the above mentioned categories that they should be treated with respect. Well, clearly yes, and clearly everybody should, but again, that's a problem in its own right. It's been around the whole of my working life and for centuries. We'd like to see some changes, and they will be slow. One could add here, of course, that all human beings in an ideal world should be so treated, as I've indicated, particularly in the workplace, where they should expect to be recognised and rewarded for their efforts, and where they are entitled to feel safe. And I have to say, I think most people do. I know that I see some particularly difficult cases with dismissal, unfair dismissal and tribunal matters, but they are the ones where there have been really serious breakdowns in what should be proper policies adopted by the people who are running the organisations, the elite, whatever you want to call them, the people, the bosses, the managers, the people at the top who are running it. They've got to make sure that they meet these new criteria. And of course, as we move towards the middle of this century, we're going to find the workplace changes completely, I think, in the way we do our business. Now, here in this report, it strays into the personal and currently controversial area of the matter of non-gender segregated loos, which I think is worth mentioning. It's referred to as those troublesome toilets. Now, Elizabeth and I, in fact, Elizabeth wrote this, and I quite agree with her. She said, sorry guys, gals, but some women out there don't feel safe in these, and some men feel uneasy or embarrassed. Now, that's the way we are in this country. I can tell you that in other parts of the world, it's viewed in a different way. And therefore, I understand the concern about this business of having what you could call non-gender segregated loos. But basically, they're unisex loos. And frankly, we do have them in hotels. We have them all over the place. We actually have them for disabled people too. So the problem is that we've got to be a little bit careful about how we go about this. But I do recognise it's a matter that we should talk about, and it's a matter where I hope there would be some common ground in the future. Of course, the counter-argument may persuade some that such attitudes are so antediluvian and non-egalitarian that they should be consigned to the dustbin of history. Well, we have to get a balance in with respect. That's what the purpose of all of this is about. But maybe in the future that may be looked at. But we who must live in the present need to respect each other's feelings on such supposedly peripheral matters. Now, to some it is, to others it's very important, and you can understand the reasons why without going into detail. So bear in mind that that is an issue that has been raised up the agenda in terms of what we're looking at, and I think we need to address matters. Of course, there is one other matter, and it's cost. The state of lavatories in this country is absolutely deplorable, generally speaking. Very, very low quality in many places, but it costs a lot of money, as I know, having been an elected councillor, when we were arguing about the closure of public lavatories and so forth, and the problems associated with even having public lavatories, the policing of them, the cleaning of them, and the cost of a person using a public convenience is actually quite high. So you can see the issue is actually a very fundamental issue, but it's one that's not going to go away. I'm going to leave it at that. To date then, this is probably one of the first and certainly a remarkably succinct and informed examination the various permutations of inclusion and diversity issues in one place, and that's in this book here. That's the purpose, as I see it, of the report. As its general tone is positive, humane and optimistic, it does set to recommend sensible solutions to diversity problems. And again, it's not a question of just finding a problem, it is actually finding the solution. Let me close by saying this. Bearing in mind that the governing bodies of the legal profession are now quite rightly placing increasing emphasis on diversity policies, all legal practitioners should read it in our view. Diversity now involves everybody. And can I just say, within the legal profession, you are looking at the moment of more women than men as solicitors, more women than men training as barristers, although obviously the numbers do change because women are do take a certain amount of time off to bring up children and then come back into the profession. Nothing at all wrong with that, and the training is there to assist them. But the fact is that we are talking about a much larger percentage of females in the legal workplace as professionals, and I think that is something that must be taken into account, because these diversity issues have worked specifically against women in the past, and that's really what we as men have got to address that matter, and it is being addressed, but it's taking a long time. Finally, the date of publication of this paperback is cited as at the 18th of June 2019. Let's just have one last look at it. There it is. I thought it was a really interesting book. It's an easy book to read. Inclusive working, tips for employees. Basically, it's really a model, I think, for management in some respects. Having been a manager as well as a barrister, having managed people, basically in the armed forces and in the civil service, I would say that this book is actually, apart from being common sense, it is also a book which gives you a good management plan. And in fact, that's probably what the part of the aim of the book is. Big thank you to Sean anyway, and to all the people who've been involved in this work, the contributors and everybody else. It's an important statement. The subject is not going away. It's going to remain with us, and we must take notice and act. Thank you to all. Bye-bye.